This is Dr. Wright, and in this second part of the normal lung anatomy series, you're going to learn the difference between a lung lobule and a lung acinus. These are terms that you're going to hear over and over again, and it's important that you understand what people are talking about. So the learning objectives are, firstly, to define what constitutes a lobule versus that of an acinus, and to be able to identify a lobule on a radiograph or a gross specimen of lung. A lobule is a gross term. It's something that you can see on a gross section of lung or a microscopic section of lung, and it's defined as the amount of lung tissue which is bounded by connective tissue septa. These are usually venous septa, as you can see here, although it could also be a pleural surface. It's about 2 centimeters on a side, although there's a degree of variation. This one, for instance, is smaller than this one. And they all contain about 3 to 6 different acini. What is an acinus? An acinus is defined as the amount of lung parenchyma which subtends from the terminal membranous bronchiole. This happens about generation 19 in the lung bifurcation system, and it includes 3 generations of respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, alveolar saccules, and alveoli. There are approximately 28,000 acini within a normal lung. This is another section from a Goff section of a normal lung lobule. Pleural surface on this side, venous septum, venous septum, venous septum, and you can also see conducting airways which are within this lung lobule. So each conducting airway has a terminal membranous bronchiole and would be the start of a different acinus. Here's another lung lobule, which is a little easier to see because it has a large amount of pigment in the venous septa, and here's a bifurcating conducting airway right in the center. This is what you're going to see on a CT scan. So the radiologists will talk about lung lobules, and they're talking about the same thing as a gross specimen. So the amount of lung parenchyma which is bounded by venous septa. Here's a microscopic slide. Again, you can identify a lung lobule. Here's pleural surface. Here's a venous septum. Here's a venous septum. Here's another venous septum, which is slightly truncated because it's not within the section of the slide. And in this lung lobule, there are a number of membranous and terminal membranous bronchi, indicating the start of an acinus. Remember now, an acinus is the amount of lung parenchyma which subtends from a single terminal membranous bronchiole and goes all the way down through respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, alveolar saccules, and alveoli. A large number of acini within a normal lung. In this cartoon, it shows that the structure of an acinus, if one did a 3-dimensional reconstruction, is roughly pyramidal in shape. There's the terminal membranous bronchiole, respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, alveolar saccules, and alveoli. Of course, it's extending out on both sides of the z-axis of this slide, giving you this roughly pyramidal shape. So the learning points of the second part of the normal lung series are the definitions of a secondary lobule, definitions of an acini or an acinus, and the recognition of a lobule on CT scans, gross and microscopic lung tissue. Here are your questions. There's only 2 of them. Question number 1. The answer to question number 1. Question number 2, and the answer to question number 2. I hope in this section that it's clear to you how to differentiate between a lung acinus and a lung